Hi everyone and welcome to Das Kahaniyan. Today we are in conversation with Ragini Bhasin. Ragini Bhasin is a filmmaker of South Asian heritage, born and raised in India. She has made award-winning films like Ghazal, which revolves around a feisty Afghan teenager who hustles around in a refugee camp when she experiences her period. The film played over 30 festivals worldwide, including IFLA, Oscar-qualifying Tirana International, Florida Film Festival, Nashville Film Festival, Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, and Femme Filmmakers in the same lineup as Olivia Wilde and Lulu Wang. Her work, which destigmatizes topics that are deemed controversial and explores the psyche of underrepresented communities, has garnered millions of views on Jubilee Media's YouTube channel, where she works as a director. Today, we are in conversation with her, tracing her journey of growth and self-discovery. Thank you, Ragini, for talking to us today.
Of course, thank you for having me here. Through Zoom.
Can you tell me how this journey started for you? What inspired you to take up filmmaking, directing, and art in general?
I think since I was in 7th grade, I was very much interested in films, and I was not exactly sure what I want to do in films, but I just liked the whole process of filmmaking in general. And then I studied English literature in Hindu College in New Delhi, and that's what I think that helped me understand more about storytelling and narrative storytelling and fiction, and just delving deep into the psyche of characters. And but I still did not have enough knowledge about filmmaking, so then I applied to a few film schools, and I was lucky enough to get into Chapman University, where I studied filmmaking and directing. And sometimes I think it was a little bit of a gamble, because I applied for a directing course and I did not exactly know what directing is. Like, I had made short films in Delhi, which were written, directed, shot, edited. Everything was done by me. So it was really small scale. But thankfully, after I started studying in Chapman University, I enjoyed directing the most, which is also something that I pursued. And I just enjoy working with different departments, including cinematographer, with the editor, with writers, and with actors. So I think that's the good thing about directing, that you have to work with everybody and collaborate. And at the same time, a lot is left on them also. So it's a very collaborative experience. So it's very important to work with people who have a similar vision as you do. So yes, that was my journey into film directing. I always enjoyed watching films. In fact, I remember as a kid, I would watch a lot of films, and I knew exactly what I don't want to do in films, like the kind of stories I don't want to tell. But it took me time to realize what kind of stories I want to tell. Yeah.
All right. But over time, do you think your skills have evolved? Has there been a substantial shift in certain things?
I think there has been a shift for sure. I think I will keep evolving probably till the time I die, and I hope to keep making films till then, because even now sometimes I make mistakes, and I think I will continue making mistakes in every stage of filmmaking. But definitely, I think the more I practice, the more films I make, the more I write, the more I watch, the better my craft will get. I do believe in this 10,000 hour rule, where they say that if you spend 10,000 hours honing a skill, that's when you start getting better. So I don't think I've spent 10,000 hours directing, but I hope that soon I do, so that I just keep getting better. But I think going to film school and working with like-minded people and just making short films and even working in unscripted content has helped me understand what kind of stories I want to tell, what kind of characters I want to work with, what matters to me as a director and a storyteller, and what is the narrative that I want to portray through my films.
That must be crucial, right? Being able to really connect to the stories that you want to tell, and being, as you said, being able to co-create it with a bunch of people who actually connect with you, and
yes.
Being able to tell the story through all of them.
Definitely, and I think that is the most important aspect, and is what you want to tell through your film and through the story you're telling, like how you want the audience to feel at the end and how you feel when you tell the story. I remember when I made Ghazal, the last scene is a very, it's not a very climactic ending, because it's just a girl who's playing with a bogur against the sun. There were some people who do not like the ending, and they still tell me that I could have a more impactful ending. But for me, that ending worked the best because I just wanted to be alone with this character whose journey we follow throughout the film. So I think, even though not impactful, for me, that's the most personal ending. So it always depends from film to film or any content to content. What do you want the audience to feel, and what do you want them to take away from the film? And I think, of course, there needs to be a universal element in the film, but it also works if everybody has a different experience when they watch the film. I think that's pretty special also. And I hope to achieve that with the films that I make.
Everyone connects differently.
Yes.
The movie takes away maybe a different thing from it.
Yes.
Got it. What about COVID? COVID is something that's affected the entire world, and I'm sure it's affected you there in LA. So, how has it been for you there? And if we can talk about specifically, the kind of work you do, how has your work helped you in how COVID has impacted?
To be honest, I remember when COVID started, of course, it was such a shock for everyone, but a part of me thought that, okay, now there's a quarantine, I'm going to be at home. My work is also at home. I can just utilize this time and write more, watch more movies, read more, and just in this, no matter how much time it takes, just maybe come up with 3 scripts or just get faster with my process. But that really didn't happen because, of course, I had to take time off also to cope with whatever's happening, to cope with working from home, coping to a new lifestyle. But I definitely was able to spend some time reading more, watching more movies, and slowly getting in the process of writing more than I usually do. And I think because I work for a YouTube channel for a media company called Jubilee Media. So a lot of our content was then being shot virtually, which was a little hard sometimes because even unscripted content is very visual, and recording Zoom meetings is never good enough to tell the best story possible, even with unscripted. So I did a few episodes that were totally recorded on Zoom, but then we had COVID safety protocols, and then with smaller crew and smaller cast members, we were able to go back to set and start shooting much smaller productions.
How has it impacted you personally? I mean, were you able to, like you said, you were trying to hone some of the skills that you had during the period, but it didn't really work out. I mean, you did some stuff, but...
Yeah, I did some stuff, but I think initially I was like almost excited that I have all this time that I can utilize, and I don't have to drive to work. I don't have to spend all the time in the office. I can be faster with whatever work that I'm doing. But of course, but then there were different kind of problems that were happening. I got COVID, my parents got COVID, and there was always something or the other that was happening, which did not allow me to spend as much time as I thought. But now, if I'm a little bit more forgiving of myself, I think I still managed to as much as I could in terms of writing and reading and watching movies and just being more in tune with the stories I want to tell. And I think, I'm sure the pandemic was a time for self-reflection for a lot of people. So that also influenced the kind of stories that I want to tell, and just influenced me as a person, which automatically will influence the work that I make.
Got it. One last question from my end. For a young person interested in taking up filmmaking and directing professionally, what would your advice be?
I think one advice that I would give is that it's very important to clearly know what kind of stories you want to tell. And that requires a lot of self-reflection, and digging deep into what is important to you and what's not. I don't think, and a lot of people disagree with me, but I strongly feel that it is not important to only tell the stories that you relate to. I think I'm more interested in telling stories that maybe I don't completely connect with or relate to, but I want to understand and empathize with somebody else's story and lifestyle, and learn more of that curiosity seed in me wants to explore somebody else's life, and with their permission and with obviously sensitivity, tell those stories. I think for me that is very important. So the advice that I would give a young filmmaker is, of course, you need to dig deep also to understand what's important to you, what kind of stories you want to tell. and something which is more of an active advice is to start with making short films. I think that's a great medium to tell stories, and now there's a market for short films also that's opening up, especially with OTT and
Mm-hmm.
different platforms. I think making short films is, I won't say it's easier, but it's more doable with a smaller budget, smaller crew, smaller cast. And that just helps you hone your skills as a storyteller. And I personally love short films. I would want to keep making short films for the rest of my life. Of course, feature films also, but I think short films themselves are a different ball game and a different craft. They require different craft altogether, but it definitely helps you understand what filmmaking is, what storytelling is, on a smaller risk,
Got it.
at a smaller risk. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Ragini. I think
Of course.
there's been some nice insights into what your journey has been, and what kind of skills you've kind of really developed while you're working on filmmaking and directing. And it's been really lovely connecting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me, for interviewing me and asking all these interesting questions. It was a pleasure to talk to you also.
Thank you.